Welcome to the University of Illinois Extension's platform. We are very happy to have on today Benton Institute for Broadband Society, as well as some folks who are partnered with the Benton Institute for the initiative that's going to be explained today, Broadband Breakthrough, which is a broadband infrastructure planning program, and those partners with the Illinois Broadband Lab, the Illinois Soy Association, the Illinois Soybean Association, and Illinois State University also assisting. So we're really happy to have Adrian Furness and Bill Coleman from the Benton Institute for Broadband Society, who are going to explain more about the Broadband Breakthrough program, as well as remarks from Todd Main from the Illinois Soybean Association. So happy to have you on, and I will pass it to you now.
Thanks, Nancy. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this very exciting kickoff meeting. Illinois Soy is delighted to be part of this groundbreaking program that we think really is going to position counties to be able to take advantage of the opportunity for funding to develop broadband plans for them. Their counties. Illinois Soy's involvement in this comes from our understanding of how important broadband is to rural economies in our state, and understanding that a lot of these counties have capacity constraints that prevent them from developing the full-blown kind of plans that are necessary to capture some of those federal dollars that are coming our way. And we have developed this program along with our partners at Illinois State and the Benton Institute to really solve that capacity problem. And this is our second run at this. We did 5 pilot counties last year very successfully, counties that went through the program and were able to develop and are developing applications to go into the state for those monies. So we're delighted. We think that this will be really valuable for you and will really help make a difference in our state. So thank you again, and look forward to a successful program. And I will give that over to Adrian.
Oh, thank you, Todd. And I just want to say Todd has been an amazing partner for the Benton Institute. Not only their organization based in Bloomington is just an extraordinary organization where we've held some of our meetings. So that's been a lot of fun. But also because they have an amazing network to over 40,000 farmers in the state of Illinois who are contributing to the Illinois economy. And as Todd said, this is all about bringing better broadband to farmers and fields in order to increase agricultural production. So, and obviously to benefit the communities in which these farmers are living. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the other partner collaborators who are working with us. I know Nancy and Todd mentioned a few of them as we were giving you the intro, but Nancy and Mike and the team at Illinois Extension have been a part of every single community engagement and planning program that we have done in Illinois to date. They're amazing partners. They work with communities. They have extension agents on the ground, and they help us with our survey process through this, and also help house all the recordings and the slides that we give throughout the program. Nancy has been an amazing thought partner for us. The Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and the Office of Broadband has also been a wonderful partner, and their Illinois Broadband Lab program collaboration, they provide us with people who help with the mapping that the communities get, so you'll know exactly where you have broadband and where you don't, and the quality of that broadband. That's one of the things that counties would get out of this program, is a sense of where you would need to target funds to bring better broadband to everybody. The Illinois Innovation Network, part of the University of Illinois system, also a primary and early collaborator in funding research from Illinois State University, and two wonderful professors, one of whom I see on the call, John Kostelnick. And what they give us two really amazing tools that, again, we pass on to the communities. One of them is economic modeling that shows a county how much more soy and corn production could a farmer or a county in aggregate produce if it had better broadband. So it sort of gives an economic rationale to be involved in this 16-week program, to care about this issue, and to, as Todd says, get a portion of this money that is a substantial generational investment. And so that's one thing that Illinois State University has done. The other is working on geographic maps, a high point analysis. And then we ask farmers as part of our survey, would you give us, or would you make available to a broadband provider or to your community a silo or other high point on your property in order to bring better broadband to your community? So these are two really amazing tools that are part of our program. So next slide, Bill. And I just want to thank everybody. We just couldn't do it without you all. The sponsoring partners or collaborators have some project goals. As I said, we love the idea that the agricultural community in these rural counties get involved in this program and have a voice in the process, because they're often economic drivers or the primary economic driver for small counties in rural Illinois. As I just discussed, we are providing advanced survey, speed test, and mapping tools to these rural broadband teams as part of creating this program. Bill will talk about that in detail. I've talked about the ISU tool that does the agricultural economic cost benefit analysis. And in the end, what we're really trying to do is create and document a replicable best practice for these rural agricultural counties. And so you'll emerge from this program with a broadband plan. And obviously we have 37 different communities that we've worked with around the state. As Todd said, 5 of them passed through the pilot program earlier this year. And so we always love sharing their successes as we've moved along. Next slide, Bill. Finally, just to give you a little background, I think those of you who live in rural counties understand that broadband has been pretty lousy, maybe outside your county seat, and that farmers are very innovative about trying to do workaround solutions when they don't have good broadband. And so we did this earlier report for the United Soybean Board that really talked about 16 different recommendations for trying to implement broadband solutions for the farm office or farmhouse, the field, and the community, more importantly, since it's all integrated. And one of those things that we suggested was that we involve the farming community, the farm bureaus, the extension agents, farmers themselves in these community engagement programs, and just make sure that these rural communities get their share of federal and state broadband dollars. So we just did this report. This seemed to be the next logical extension, was to bring the data and the recommendations locally. And I'll just talk about one of them, which I think is really, for those of you who understand that broadband speed really means something for these communities, particularly after the pandemic. But you know, 25.3 broadband just does not cut it anymore. And I would even suggest that 100 over 20 sometimes isn't great, because we all know from the pandemic, and farmers know this for sure, that upload speed is incredibly important in order to get all that data from the fields up to the cloud, analyze it, and make real-time decisions. This was just one of the recommendations that we made. And so we are trying to bring some of those policy recommendations down to the community level and make sure you all have the robust, reliable, and affordable broadband that you need. I'm going to turn this over now to Bill Coleman, who will walk through the program, and then we'll open it up for questions afterwards. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Adrienne. Good day, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. This is a real opportunity for your community, your county, to move forward very rapidly with a community broadband plan. And I think, and not only a plan, but really an implementable plan. We really focus on going through this process, helping you make choices about what's right for you, your community. We know with all the federal funds coming to Illinois, about $1 billion for broadband services, that broadband infrastructure, that probably somebody is going to improve the broadband in your area. But you really want to make sure, and I think the purpose of this program is that the community voice is strong and able to influence which broadband provider is going to be delivering services in your county, what technologies will they be using to deliver that service, and really determine for the long term, because this broadband infrastructure is a long-term asset, is that going to be sufficient to help you attract people and investment into your community? And that's really the essence of economic development, is that population and the public or the private sector investment. And so the purpose of this program is for you to determine, pursue, and achieve the best possible broadband solution for your community. And because of different geographies and demographics and topographies and tree cover and mix of existing and prospective broadband providers, each county is different. And even within counties, there are differences that make it either more attractive and easier to serve, or more difficult and less attractive to serve for providers. We know that if it was profitable to serve rural areas with the great broadband, that the private sector just would have done it already. But the fact is that it's not overly profitable to serve these areas. We know that we've had federal programs since the 1930s to extend first electricity and then later telecommunications to rural areas. And if anything, that market of that, we certainly have many fewer, we have larger farms, fewer residential folks living out in the countryside than ever before. But at the same time, we know with precision agriculture that with every device being connected, the needs for better broadband in rural areas has not diminished, but has only increased. And so our approach is a guided self-help 4-month broadband planning process, empowering your teams to meet weekly and undertake critical information gathering and strategy development activities. And so we don't do this plan for you. This is a plan that your community team creates. And we ask you to get a team of at least 8 people who will commit to meeting weekly over this 16-week period. And really, where we've seen the most effective teams is they've been 12 or 15, 16 people on a team. I want to tell you that while that's a big lift to recruit those people, you might be surprised how many people are willing to participate in a program like this. And I can tell you that generally the teams get bigger as we go. We don't lose. It's not a war of attrition where at the end of the 16 weeks, there's 3 or 4 survivors left in the room. we find that that meeting room gets more crowded as our session goes on because more people become aware of your planning efforts and want to join in. When we think about the phases for this program, certainly right now we're in that leadership recruitment and education process. Information gathering takes place early, the first several weeks of the program, the first maybe 6 to 8 weeks are very intense in terms of gathering information from your community about your current broadband situation, what your residents think about that, and so on. We spend a lot of time, and that starts early and continues through the process for you to develop a vision, to build consensus around your team. Your first meetings might have 8 or your dozen people around the table. Everyone might have a different idea about what's necessary, what's the right path forward. Some people come in with some very strong preset ideas about what needs to happen. Others are just beginning the consideration of what better broadband means for a community and how to get it. And so that's really a big thing of our program as an outcome, is for you to develop this consensus and recognizing that the ideas you have at the beginning may not be the same ideas you have at the end of the 16 weeks. Opportunity analysis. When you begin to talk to broadband providers in your area, those opportunities are going to begin to emerge, not at the end of the program, but maybe midway through the program. And in other places where we've done this, communities have actually applied for and received broadband grants in the middle of this program, just because they started to develop those conversations with the right players. The reporting is not to us. The reporting is really to your rest of your community, for your steering team to report to the county board, the Chamber of Commerce board, to the Rotary Club, to the school board, whoever will listen, what it is that you've learned and what you think is the path forward. And you're always trying to build more community energy, get more people on your community team. And then finally, that project development. And while that arrow is a short one, know that that can go on well beyond the 16 weeks. And in many communities lasts for a year, where you're trying to find that right broadband provider partner, to find the right funds, to move forward on apply for funds, to get those funds. And so that can go on for some time. It's likely that you might not get all of your county served in the first shot. And so you need to, maybe some counties take a more phased approach to try and make this happen as opportunities emerge. And so when we think about that leadership recruitment and education, bigger is better, a variety of knowledge and skills on the team. Doesn't have to be, everyone has to be techie to be on this team. We know that there's some folks who are very influential in your community, and having them on board as a part of this process can really be important because of their community connections and affiliations. We educate your team in our 2-hour meetings that we have every week. The first hour is generally reserved for us to provide you with information from our Benton team, from the Soy Association, from Illinois State, but also from industry experts who share great knowledge with the community members, and also from other communities, either from within Illinois or elsewhere, that are, because they see this as so important across the country, across rural areas, are willing to come in and share their experience. And it's always fun to hear from them about the successes that they've had in spite of the challenges that they've had. We've got our webinars, both live and archived. We provide a lot of resource information. So depending on how deep you want to dig, this is kind of like a college class where you can, you've got your required reading, and then you have your additional readings, which, of course, when I was in college, probably never really tapped into very much. Adrienne, on the other hand, probably read all the recommended materials. but we're going to have a lot of information for you that is going to be helpful for you at the right time and when you need it. And so that's an important part of this leadership, recruitment, and education. So getting that team, the team is really everything as a basis, a foundation for your work. When we talk about the information gathering, we do a community survey through Broadband Breakthrough. We've really added many ag-focused questions to really get the farmer information involved in this, and that's really proved to be quite helpful. Because after all, we know that in most towns, they have at least adequate broadband service, but it's really that rural countryside that struggles the most with broadband services. We ask you to collect the broadband speed test data so you can really document the quality of services that are present in your community in spite of what the state broadband or federal broadband maps might show. We look at key customers. You could do some focus groups, leadership meetings, and so on. But to get out there, in one community, Edgar County, they did a great job of bringing young farmers in and talking to them. 20 of them described how terrible broadband was, but kind of how used they are to bad broadband and the steps they do to overcome that. We'll come to your community about midway through the program for a little tour, community meeting, a breakfast, a lunch, to present the kind of, it's one more way to showcase your efforts to your community. We ask that you interview your broadband providers, both the ones who are there already and prospective providers. We can help connect you with those, with the provider community if you need that. And so that's an important thing, is who can you really move forward with to get better broadband in your community. And we know some communities might want to say, hey, we don't want anything to do with this. We just want someone to come in and solve our problem. Some community members are on the exact opposite side and say, hey, we want to make sure that we're in charge of this. This is a essential infrastructure. Cities and counties have roads and sewers and water systems. We should just add broadband to that list. So within those two extremes, there's a wide range of opportunities for moving forward. And then mapping is important, and increasingly important with the way the federal and state funding programs operate. And so we do a lot of support for you on maps and GIS tools, both from the Illinois Broadband Lab with the state and FCC maps, and then the maps that Illinois State will create for you. And so that a lot of information, and having those maps, if you have a GIS person that works for your county government or for your regional planning commission, having them on your team is really important. And then vision development and consensus building. We say take the time for the hard conversations. We know that relationships move at the speed of trust, and having these conversations and building that consensus is really important. When we ask communities to create these vision statements, it's really easy to say, oh, well, we want the best, fastest, cheapest, most affordable broadband services. We know that sometimes there's trade-offs. And so having the discussion about some of these trade-offs is really important. And so that's why we spend a lot of time in your team meetings. That second hour of each session that we have is your team working. We have worksheets for almost every topic. We really help guide you through that discussion. We'll have somebody from our team sitting in as an advisor to your group, but we ask that your team run those second hour meetings, and our folks step in as necessary as a resource, but we really want you to lead these initiatives. And then opportunity analysis. Who are the best provider partners? Which funding is most applicable to your community? Are you prepared to be a good partner? As you're asking broadband providers to come in and invest in your community, what can you do to make their investment most attractive? It's very similar if you're trying to attract a hotel or a manufacturer or a grocery store to your community. This is really pure economic development 101. You're asking some business to come in and make an investment in your community. And so what can you do to both in a financial way and non-financial strategies to help them? And then if your primary plan doesn't work out, what's our plan B? And that's an important thing to think about. The report to the community is really important. We ask communities, sometimes we'll go out and they'll have kind of a sample resolution and get school boards and township boards and various associations to support kind of a resolution of the importance of broadband and how to move forward with that. And again, each place is different. Some counties have resources that they can put into a project, other ones don't. And so what is the important role to get your community on board as much as possible with your plan? And so that's what this, you're trying to, what they call socialize your plan, get it around the community, get as much support as you can for that plan. And then project development can either be fast or slow, can be comprehensive or piecemeal, straightforward and require new strategies or multiple attempts. We've just been corresponding with the little town of Elsa, Illinois. It's right on the Mississippi River. And they've been working now for a couple of years. They were in one of our first community cohorts of something we call Broadband Accelerate. This program's a little different, but very similar. And we just found out from them that they're now included in a grant application to the state with the area telecom provider that was really their first choice to be their provider partner, I think now almost 2 years ago. And finally now that's happening. So they stuck to it and they're pretty excited about it. Pretty fun to hear. And then these, what I would call timeline benders, is you may be working on this and a provider that you like or don't like announces they're coming to your community. You may find about grants programs that are available either through the state or from the USDA or the FCC that makes you want to jump in and seek those funds. Clearly, local politics is a part of this if you're thinking about supporting projects either just socially or financially. And then your own staffing issues. So making sure that you have a good sustainable effort in your community. And so this is a list of all the topics that we cover over this program. It's essentially you get your own bachelor's degree in broadband, you and your team together to really understand the language. And in our program, we know that a lot of the folks on the team are not really tech savvy, broadband experts. And so we do use a circular approach where we come back to different topics, acronyms and lingo you may not understand. Believe me, by the end of this program, you'll be able to sling the jargon with the best of them. And so it's really provides a great shared learning experience for the team and helps you come up with a real rational and achievable broadband plan for your community. So one of the things that with the Broadband Breakthrough that makes it different from our Broadband Accelerate program we've done is this ag focus, and recognizing that in many of your counties, agriculture is a driving force for the economy. And this is true for much of rural Illinois and the rural areas of the Midwest. But we've, through the Soy Association and the Farm Bureau, we've had excellent interaction with the farming community. And I think it's really, you know, we drive by these barns out to the rural area and say kind of, well, what's going on in there? And to understand now how farmers are using technology every day in all parts of their work, whether it's in growing, it's gathering data, whether it's marketing their product, fixing equipment. The broadband has really become essential to this. the mapping resources that we provide you. We've got a staff person with the Illinois Broadband Lab, Shabika Argawal, that is outstanding GIS and now broadband expert. She can really help you link your maps to your surveys, to the data, and it's really become a really powerful tool for the communities that we're really proud of. And then key success factors, your team. You know, this is really the most important thing, to be able to launch with your full team in place, having a good management of your team so that everyone feels heard. There's people feel that their participation is really valuable. I think one of the beautiful things about this program is the speed at which we move keeps people very interested, and we've got enough tasks involved that people really feel engaged in the program. Don't become paralyzed with analysis. We want you to or don't think about, oh, how can we modify the survey, or how can we do this or that. We think if you just really follow the program that we've done now in 5 states with about 60 communities, 60 counties, if you just kind of follow the plan, work the plan, this is a really positive thing. You can bend it to your needs and everything. We're not dictators in how this is run, but it's a real proven method. Work hard on this community consensus. There's times I get calls from coordinators or people on teams. They're telling me things, and I ask, have you talked to the people on your team about this? You know, how do we, you know, and it's really important to be a good team player on your community team. You need to be flexible. We learn, we can make choices, we can change. And so being adaptable is important. And then be persistent. You know, this program is 16 weeks, but the implementing full broadband in your county could take a year or more. And so that's to be patient and persistent is a big part of this program. And so here are some key contacts, and as Nancy mentioned, she has she'll make these slides available for people so you don't have to be scribbling these down. But we're lucky to have a new staff person that we stole from the state of Tennessee, Reed Sharkey's my colleague, and we work together to deliver this program. Nancy has really been now a national leader in helping other states implement broadband surveys like we've done it in Illinois. And she goes way beyond the call of duty to help you get the information you need, which I think is very admirable, as does Shabika Agarwal on the mapping. So plenty of support for your efforts to move forward on this. And I look forward now to a discussion. I'm going to end this show and stop sharing my screen.
Hey, Bill,
yes.
could you or Reed tell people when we anticipate that the application process would be open, how much time people would have, and when we plan to start? So this is a really great group of 40-odd people on the call, and I just want to let them know that.
Yeah, and so I should know those dates right off my head. I think the application process is now open, and we can, I think the materials that we'll send out following this will be the application. And we've got just several weeks to maybe Reed, I see him looking at his screen. What's our due date for those applications, Reed?
I have it in my head as the 9th. It's either the 9th or the 13th. I'm looking to confirm now, but the application is open. So you can get those sent in, you know, whenever you have availability, and I'll confirm that date really quick.
Yeah, and we're also working in Oklahoma, and those dates have been in flux. So dates are something that spin out of my mind pretty easily. But the critical part of this application is it's quite short. But the timeline is short. But if you can gather your team, your 8 to 12 to 15 people, and give us their names and their affiliations in the community and kind of a guarantee that they're really going to be attending our sessions, a weekly commitment to come in. We all know that life intervenes. And so if people can't attend, that's fine on occasion, but it's important that the team meet every week and continue to build their plan, build their understanding of their situation, and really accomplish the task. So that's really the primary part. We ask a little bit about, what have you done in the past on broadband? What have been your challenges around broadband and so on? But it's really, in terms of writing an application, this is a matter of 8 pages kind of at the most. It's not a 200-page application, but getting that team, recruiting your team is the key part of that.
And Reed, could you also drop into the chat when we anticipate starting the program and ending it? And given that it does straddle the holidays, guys, we won't obviously ask anybody to meet on December 26th, but we just want you to know that it does extend in a little bit into next year. Thank you. And as Bill said, man, it's hard to keep the Oklahoma and Illinois schedules juggled. Bill, do you want to open this up for questions at this point?
Yeah, that would be great. I'm looking
And I would
in the chat.
Keep encouraging people to put your name and affiliation. I really do appreciate those of you who've done that to date.
Good. And October 9th is the deadline for the application. If people even, and this is the way I operate, is I ask, I see, folks on here from the Afton Township, Rand, what's your broadband situation in Afton Township, and how do you see your township involved? And you're on mute if you're still there.
Anybody else want to chime in? Did you get it?
Yeah, sorry about that. Good afternoon. I'm Randy Bordages with Afton Township. I was actually kind of going through the list of seeing if anybody was in from our Farm Bureau from DeKalb County, and I don't know if there is or not. Currently, just to give you an update, Afton Township is fortunate right now. We have a company called Evergence that has placed themselves in our community. A lot of us are taking advantage of the wireless broadband system that they've got in place. So, but this for the township is limited to certain areas. So I'm was very excited to see the email, and hopefully that DeKalb County will have an opportunity to maybe broaden our scope here within not only Afton Township, but the other townships within DeKalb County.
Well, that would be great. And sometimes that leadership comes from the bottom up and sometimes from the county level down, and finding that right balance. And we have found that the county geography is really a great place for us to work, that there's enough capacity to continue on this kind of initiative. There's enough scale that might be attractive to broadband providers to come in and just provide service in one township. You can get a fixed wireless company to come in and do that, kind of put up an antenna and get some connectivity. But for that fiber to the home services, a bigger geography, a little more scale is important. And I have to say that there's a big push-pull between, fiber optics and wireless services that your teams are going to have to navigate. Certainly the fixed wireless, in many cases, there are one or multiple companies in your township or county already delivering that service. Sometimes they're very small and entrepreneurial, but also maybe financially limited to deliver the most state-of-the-art network services or reliability, or to be able to afford the big pipe bandwidth that is required. At the same time, those antennas can go up pretty quickly. People can get some service in a hurry. And as a part of our program, we do actually ask farmers to identify and maybe commit to sharing some of their what we call vertical real estate, their grain legs and so on, to be able to deliver those fixed wireless services. So we know that's a challenge, and that's an interesting discussion that communities now always have, because we've seen the fixed wireless service greatly improve to be able, we know they can deliver easily 100 megabits down and 20 megabits up, but maybe not if you're behind the barn or behind the wooded hillside or down in a river valley. And so that fixed wireless has some shortcomings there. The strength of fiber optics is certainly that now, instead of megabits, we're talking about multiple gigabit services available. So 10 gigabit service, whether that's, how much do people need? Certainly that first 10, 25, 50 megabits is the most valuable services. But, when we extended electricity to rural areas, they called it the light company, because the only thought of the application of being the light bulb and not having to milk the cows in the dark, and to have lights in the farmhouse. But certainly now we know all the different applications we have for electricity. And so that's the same thing with broadband. More and more activities, especially in agriculture, require broadband. I'm going to call on Carrie now. McKillop, Carrie, what's your question?
Yeah, when this email for the meeting came out, you did send it to myself and some others that said Warren and Henderson County. Is it possible to do a 2-county initiative such as that? Because they're both incredibly rural counties in West Central Illinois, and it would make sense to do that together.
It is possible, and we've actually had multiple. In Ohio, we had a 7-county region participate. In Illinois, we've had the area around Kaskaskia College did kind of a joint initiative. And I think 2 counties is certainly doable. One thing I would say is that, this broadband planning is about getting broadband to a particular address. So if your geography gets too big, then your plan ends up to be more kind of policy oriented and maybe less about particular addresses. But I think a 2-county effort, and in particular, if you're used to working together on different activities, a 2-county effort is certainly possible.
Well, in particular, Bill, I would add, if there are broadband providers that cross the county border, sometimes broadband providers just aren't restricted. There's McDonough Telephone, who's been an amazing partner to multiple counties in, I guess, mid-central Illinois. They got a big USDA grant of $18 million. They were building most of the network in Hancock County, one of our participants last time, but they bled over into another. So, Carrie, I think it kind of depends on just the factors that Bill's talked about. If they're used to working together, if they have a common broadband provider, if the economic development team is generally, multi-county, we'd say fine.
Good. That's a great question, Carrie. Thank you. Aaron Tabrinka, I like your picture there. So now I'm going to call on you. Where are you from and what's your situation?
Hi. I work in the Senate, and I'm interested in this. I'm close to Christian County, so I'm interested in helping out with that.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining.
No problem.
Did you work from home?
No, I'm actually in the Senate here.
Okay.
So.
Well, we know that more and more, people work from home. They can do a job and have a job in Springfield and choose to live in a rural area and or have a job in the Chicago Metroplex and want to live in a rural area. So we know that there's so many uses now for the broadband service that and increasingly we're seeing that some counties have good broadband, other ones don't. So if you're going to be a healthy, viable rural county, having great broadband is a place with great quality of life. And we had interesting Schuyler County is famous for deer hunting, and so they think about their anchor institutions. Usually we think about schools and libraries and hospitals as anchor institutions, but with them they've got some pretty magnificent hunting lodges that people are running as businesses where people come for a week to try and find that trophy deer. And you just think, well, they could stay for 2 weeks if they had better internet service. Those places are out in the hollers down in the little creek areas and not necessarily in the town. So to drive your rural economies, whether it's agriculture or deer hunting, broadband is more and more required.
Bill, I wanted to interject, and Aaron, thank you for coming off and showing yourself. A lot of what we ask counties to do is talk to their local representatives and get them involved. And of course, you're the guys who are minding what's happening at the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and the broadband investments that are being made. So we always ask for presentations to be made, whether it's the county board. I mean, depending on the local governance, structure, we really encourage that people reach out and involve. I noticed there was a chair of a county board on the call, whether it's a township official or all the way up to state reps or senators. I think it's or their staff. It's a great thing to pull that element into the team or have them be what I would call affiliate members. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for saying my name correctly. You're like one of the first people to say it. You said Tabrinka, which is like, oh, that's the Dutch way of saying it. So
I've hung out a lot
that.
in Amsterdam, I will tell you.
So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so this is again, for communities, the leadership for these initiatives can come from anywhere in the county. So it could be one or two townships, kind of dragging a county board along and into the program. It could be the associations of townships that decide, every county, usually the townships meet. This is something that township level folks could do. It can come from the economic development organization. Certainly, as we look at, where are people going to move and invest, it's places that have high quality broadband. It's now moved from, when I started in economic development, it was what's the name of the phone company? That was the only interesting, people's interest in telecommunications. Now that broadband is one of the top 2 or 3 criteria for a business locating an area, and certainly more and more attracting the workforce is a critical piece. And as people decide to move to the more rural county, maybe they're moving from the suburbs or a metro area, the idea of having better broadband is that people want it. Clearly, we've talked to your realtors in your community that if a place does not have broadband, there's a certain percentage of prospective buyers who just won't buy a house unless it has great broadband. And I've heard no shortage of stories of people saying, I moved to this community and I bought a house, and then I found out there was no internet service. I think more and more people are become more aware that they need to really make sure that that's a guarantee when they buy a house. But if people are saying, oh, we can't move there because there's no internet, when they look at the state broadband maps and it says there's no internet there, or only cellular or only satellite, a lot of people say, well, that's not the place for me. They're going to go find a different location.
Hey, Bill, I'd like to ask if Jamie Franklin would come on, who's from Shawnee Communications. And the reason, Jamie, if you wouldn't mind showing yourself, is that Shawnee has been a small broadband provider in Illinois who has been very successful getting grants from the state of Illinois. Oh, there you are. Perfect. Thank you. I would just love to ask, what do you think about communities being involved in this process, Jamie?
So what we were hoping to find some partners who we can partner with. If it's a, small farming business or a big farming business, or if it's nonprofit organizations, those are what we are looking for, to partner up with to, educate them on how they can apply for grants that will help us take the fiber to some of these rural areas where we are not at yet. We do offer a wireless solution too that we have in some of our rural areas in central Illinois. And, like you said earlier, if we could partner with some farmers and use their real estate to get the antennas up on their silos and their barns, that are tall, anything that they have tall, that's what we're looking for. I'm really just on here getting some information and listening to everybody's ideas. And I think this is a really good program.
Thank you, Jamie.
I want to, I expect that with a positive reputation, you get phone calls from community leaders, mayors, or county board members saying, please come to our county. Well, you should steer them to this program because that's a great way to have them build the capacity, the community commitment, the political will to help a company like yours, small company that maybe has a big heart, but maybe your balance sheet a smaller bank account than your heart. So how do you make that happen in rural areas? And so this really equips the community to be a good partner for prospective broadband providers. And the last thing a provider wants is to spend a lot of time with a community and think you kind of are going down a pathway towards a partnership. And then when it gets to the county board or other decisions, there's people saying, oh, we shouldn't do this, or we can't do this, and so there's a lot of investment by providers in engineering and business planning to decide whether to partner with the community, and to know they have a reliable partner is really important to them.
Bill, it's interesting when when providers go in to apply for Connect Illinois funds, they actually have to have letters of support from the community. So again, this is one of the reasons why we ask you to identify prospective providers. And if you are walking toward an application in coordination with each other, then the community plays a big role in helping to secure those funds by blessing the proposal of these providers. So I'm not sure a lot of people know about that, but that's one of the other reasons this program, I think, is helpful to communities.
Yeah. And the one thing, and final thing I'd say about kind of provider engagement in a program like this is some communities say, hey, should we have our existing providers on our team? And I think that's a good question. And each county is a little different in that. And what I would say is that some providers want to join the team to explore opportunities, to be a good partner, to see how they can really work with the community. Other providers kind of join, maybe as I would say, lurking to say what's going on in this community, and are they going to try and do something that is detrimental to the business interests of the provider? And so I think you need to decide, who to have on your team and who might be a positive influence on your team or who might be blocking. Know that no matter which provider is on, they're coming with their what I would call enlightened self-interest. And so as is everybody on the team, right? Everyone in the community wants better broadband to help their farm, to help their business, to help operate the schools. And so that's enlightened self-interest is fine, but you really want to make sure everyone's perspective is recognized by the team, and then have strong enough community leadership to, if somebody kind of gets out of line with a little more self-interest and less enlightened, then you need to kind of snap them back and make sure it's a positive influence on the team. And then we've had other counties that kind of said, well, we're going to create kind of a providers group where every once in a while we'll update them of what we're doing, share information, get their input, but not necessarily have them as a part of the weekly team. And so it's we want this as a community broadband planning program led by the community for the community's benefit. So we always want to keep that front and central. I think Ron Suarez asked a question about electric co-ops seeking community stakeholders to offer broadband cooperatives. I think more and more we see that especially electric cooperatives have entered the broadband marketplace for a few reasons. One, of course, is the amount of money that's available to help them do this. But number two is that electric cooperatives and electric utilities in general have used fiber optics for decades to connect major facilities, to control substations. More and more that goes to the smart home, and a connection to the home is important for the electrical provider, for metering, to make sure now that people have solar or wind on their houses, or car chargers, that more and more interactivity between the electric provider and the household is required. And so there's real opportunity to make use of this network for electric controls. But then finally, too, electric co-ops are only going to be successful if their local economies are successful. And so they see that, you know, our areas need broadband. Who else has the time and the talent, the resource, the community interest to extend broadband to many of these rural areas? And they have to look in the mirror and say, that's us. That if they want their area to thrive and need electricity, they're going to have to provide the broadband service. And so there, we see that as well. So that's another prospective partner that communities can work with to run through this program. And we've seen electric co-ops and others, you know, school districts, when we go to do the community survey, which is a big task, the more you can get that survey out there through a variety of means, like your utility providers, like your schools, like your churches and so on. They're all prospective partners to get that survey out and get people to complete it. I see we're at our time. And so I want to thank people. Look for in your email follow-up to this, the application for the program. And we really encourage you to apply, consider applying, getting your team together. If you would like me or someone else from our team to do a 30-minute presentation to 3 to 5 to 10 folks from your community to help answer your specific questions, help you brainstorm ideas about how this might work in your community, we're more than happy to do that kind of presentation interaction with you. And certainly just to give us a call and chat about your ideas for making this work in your community. We're happy to do that. Any final questions? Good. Well, we hope to get our 6 communities. And so, there's we've got some targeted communities, about a dozen or 15 of those counties that are have huge soy production, and I think we've listed those in our application. But even if you're not in that list of the priority communities, we encourage you to apply anyways. We're looking for 6 to start, and another 6 to start a second cohort, and right after the first of the year. So don't be shy about trying to get your team together, get your application in. We're hoping we get enough for both cohorts, groups of communities to participate. If we don't, we'll be making a second push later in the fall to attract to fill out our second group, but we hope to accomplish that in this single application program.
Bill,
Adrienne,
can I,
close
yeah,
us out?
I would love to say one last thing. You know, I was studying who had loaded their affiliation in the chat, and I want to again point out that, you know, I saw Tim from the from the Decatur or Macomb Farm Bureau, sorry. And I saw a law firm here, and I saw, you know, a variety of different players, county board people. The point is, anybody can start pushing along to get people enrolled in the program. And so, you know, in terms of just trying to get organized, you know, as Bill said, it's a very simple application. We try not to make this difficult for people. And we just hope that many of you who are here on the call can go back and talk to people and make an application. I will say one last thing, that a lot of people say, oh, my county is so small, I just can't possibly do this. We had a county last time that had 7,000 people, Schuyler County, and she spoke on an earlier webinar, and her message was small counties can do this too. So actually, of the 5, I believe 3 of them were under 20,000 people. So again, we don't want there to be any perception that this is only for a big county with a lot of resources, and that this is not the kind of program for, you know, a smaller group. We're here to help you all. And so no matter your size, we're going to make you a mighty broadband small A advocate for your community. And we look forward to working with you. Todd, any final word?
Thanks, Adrienne. I would just say, echo what you said, is that this is a program that we've designed to be available to everyone. We encourage you to take advantage of it because it will give you a leg up in the scoring that happens when they decide who gets the funding. And it really is a generational opportunity, and it's a way for your county to get in control of its future in a way that is really going to drive growth for the next decade and beyond. So please go back, take stock of what you have, and talk to us, and we can work with you to make sure that the program meets your needs.
Thank you, Nancy, for hosting as usual. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Yep. Want to thank Bill, Adrienne, Todd. Just wonderful to have you on. Want to wish everyone a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see a lot of applicants coming through. So very excited to be a part of it and happy to host you all today. And take care, everyone. We'll be in your email inboxes before too long with all of this information there as well.
Thank you.